after I confronted her about basically cheating on me, she ended up looking at me saying, okay, well, you know what? If we're gonna break up, it's fine. It's not like anyone else wants you anyway. And at that moment, I ended up seeing her roommate quickly walk out of her bedroom and look at me and realize it was a really awkward situation. So she ended up going back. And at that moment, I knew I'm gonna get revenge on my ex-girlfriend. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another insane, but I gotta say crazy story. Now, I don't believe in revenge. Revenge is something that no one should really take lightly. It is not a good thing to do. And also on top of that, it's just not fun to do. But in this story I'm about to tell you, well, I'm gonna be honest, it was kind of needed. Because I remember back when I was in high school, this was my grade 12 year. And it was my final year of high school. I'm just, you know, getting ready to basically graduate, do my own thing, all that good stuff. And me, one of my dreams about basically high school graduation was graduating with someone that I was dating. And still dating to this day at least, but that's not a thing, I guess. But main thing I'm trying to say is that I wanted a high school sweetheart. It always happens in the films, and me being a hopeless romantic, I thought maybe I could make that happen to me. So I remember towards the end of my grade 12 school year, I was dating this girl. Now this girl, she was a great girl. She treated me right and everything, and she was being fantastic, at least for the first months of us dating, because over time, she actually ended up changing a lot more than I expected. Like, for example, every time we talked about the future, she never talked about it as if I was gonna be there. It seems like she always had other plans and stuff, and in a way, it was the one thing I was worrying about. But she never ended up breaking up with me or anything. She just ended up, you know, staying with me, but acting like she shouldn't have to break up with me because of it. It was a really weird relationship, but I remember every time I'd go over to her place and, you know, me and her would go on a date or we have like a little movie night, we'd always end up having this argument about basically what's good for my future. Like, she was legit telling me how video games is not going to get me anywhere and how I should focus on basically going to school and graduate with high numbers and become like a doctor or something. I don't know. She was basically becoming my mom. Like, it was really, really awkward. And every time this would happen, we always end up in an argument and leaving and basically, you know, not talking for a while. And I remember there was this time period where me and her weren't talking for a while and we haven't spoken to each other for, I want to say, almost 2 weeks. And usually, like, every time we would argue, it'd only take 1 to 2 days to figure it out. But this girl, after arguing with her, she ended up not talking to me for 2 weeks. And I started to worry. I started to worry because it's not like her to not talk to me for this long, right? So I ended up texting her all the time, trying to reach out to her, trying to see if, like, you know, we could fix things and just go back to being the happy couple that we should have been. Yeah. Nope, not at all. Because I remember I started driving one night to her place because I saw she was at home. And I thought maybe if I just surprise her and say hi and give her some flowers, we could make up and basically move on from the argument. But once I got there and I parked my car in front of her building, I realized that there was a guy pulling up with a really nice car, and I saw that she got out of it. My girlfriend got out of this person's car and went upstairs. At that moment, I was so confused. I got out of the car right away as she was heading for the entrance of her building, and I said, babe, what? Who's that? I remember she got startled and looked at me and she's like, Bubba, what are you doing here? What do you mean? What am I doing here? Who's that in the car? I end up looking at the guy in the car and he ends up actually just driving away. Like, I didn't even get to see who it was. He drove away so quick with his nice car that I guess he didn't want me to know who he was, but that didn't matter. I walked up to my girlfriend and I said, babe, can we talk about this? So me and her, we ended up going inside. We went upstairs and we were silent in the elevator. Like, we didn't say anything. But once we got inside her apartment, we sat down on the couch and I looked at her and said, so we're gonna talk about it? Like, who was that? Babe, it's no one, okay? It was just like a friend that I was just hanging out with. I remember right at that moment though, her roommate comes out of her bedroom because she had a roommate at the time. And she comes out saying, oh, hey girl, how was your day? Oh, hi Bubba, what are you doing here? I remember my eyes went wide open and I looked at my girlfriend and said, your date? At that moment, she confessed everything. She confessed that she was cheating on me. She confessed that, you know, she was basically seeing a whole other guy while me and her were together. I was so upset and I remember I was furious, but obviously I didn't want to show it. In a way, I guess, like, in crazy situations, I don't show my emotions well. I'm not gonna lie. I have a really bad temper, but at the same time, I do know how to somewhat control it. And by controlling it, I mean doing the devil's tango. But since I had a girlfriend, I didn't do the devil's tango with anyone else but her because, well, I was in a relationship and I don't cheat like she did. But I was really just upset, and I remember I kind of just ended up clenching my hand into a fist, but I decided to calm down. I calmed down and I saw her roommate quickly walks back into her room awkwardly, not saying a word. And as my girlfriend is just looking at me, confessing everything to me, everything just went blank. And by blank, I mean I was looking at her and I was staring at her while she was complaining and saying sorry and all this stuff. But at the same time, I'm gonna be honest, I just kept looking at her lips and everything just became white noise. And at that moment, I remember I ended up looking at her roommate's door and I thought thought to myself, you know what? I'm gonna get her back. And by get back, I don't mean get back together with my girlfriend. I mean get back at her, like get revenge. I don't know why my mind resulted to that situation. Maybe I was just too upset to even think about anything else. But I realized at that moment, I wanted revenge for what this girl did to me. So I did the one thing I knew I was good at. And if you guys watch the channel a lot, you guys would know what I'm good at. And that's doing the devil's tango. So I remember I ended up standing up and I ended up just leaving. I didn't even say bye. I remember my girlfriend kept saying like, oh, like, I'm sorry. But at that moment, I already considered her an ex. And I went downstairs. I got inside my car. I played some sad music, obviously, on the way back home. But right as I got home and I walked into my bedroom, I ended up picking up my phone and I ended up basically starting to text her roommate. I think you guys know where this is going, but if you guys don't, keep listening because it gets better. Because I ended up texting her roommate saying like how, like, you know, I'm sad and how I broke up with my girlfriend and everything and stuff she already knew. And she just kept being nice about it. And she's like, oh, like, I'm so sorry. Like, you're such a great guy. Like, I don't know why she would break up with you. Saying all the stuff that most girls say to guys that got recently broken up with. And then I remember I ended up just basically going silent. And then she called me. She called me and she said, hey, like, I was just like wondering, are you okay? Like, I'm just checking in. I know tonight's a really hard night for you. Oh yeah, no, tonight's just difficult. Like, I just don't have anyone to talk to about it, is what I said back to her. And then me and her, we ended up planning a date together. But I wanted to make sure that if we did go on a date, that it was gonna end right. And by ending right, I mean doing the devil's tango. So I remember me and her, we ended up planning a date on the day that my girlfriend at the time, or my ex-girlfriend, I should say, would go to volleyball practice. So I remember a couple days went by and me and this girl, I ended up picking her up at her apartment, which was the same apartment as my ex. And I ended up picking up her roommate and going out on a nice cute date. It was nothing crazy. We just went out to like bubble tea or something. Like we just did some basic stuff. I'm not gonna lie. It was a really plain date. And to be honest, I don't remember much of it because it wasn't important. But I remember towards the end of the night, this girl looks at me, her roommate, and she says, I don't know why she would ever like cheat on you. Like, you're such a great guy, Bubba. Yeah, if you think that, you should see how I do the devil's tango. And at that moment, she looks at me and I thought she got disgusted, but no, she was actually in the mood. Like, guys, like she wanted to do the devil's tango because she says, well, I mean, I don't think she's home right now. Do you want to like maybe come over? At that moment, I end up driving quickly to her place and me and her, I'm not gonna lie, we went straight to doing the devil's tango. So I did the devil's tango with her roommate. And I realized on my phone, like halfway through when we were taking a break, I ended up going on my phone and I quickly checked the location of my ex and I saw she was just about to walk into her own apartment building and walk through the door to her own place. So I decided to lay there and just basically like talk to like her roommate and have like a good conversation. And then right as I hear the door open, her roommate looks at me and says, oh my goodness, wait, I think she's home. Bubba, hide in the closet. Did I hide in the closet? Nope. I got up. I put on my underwear, just my underwear. And I walked out of her roommate's bedroom and I said, oh, sorry, I wasn't expecting you to be here. Fully knowing that she was there. I remember my ex looked at me and she just had her jaw drop. Like she was so upset and just crazy. Like she got so mad to the point where she started yelling at me and her roommate. It got really awkward. I'm not gonna lie. I did what I did and I ended up leaving the apartment. I didn't even say anything else. I just left. And I remember her roommate just like kept like messaging me afterwards saying, oh my goodness, like why would you walk out? Like what was the point of all this? And I knew what the point of it was, to get revenge on my ex-girlfriend. And did it work? Yes. And are they still roommates to this day? Yes. I don't know. It was a pretty interesting way of getting revenge. And if you guys think I'm in the wrong for it, you're right. But at the same time, would you guys do the same if you got cheated on? If you would, then follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.